Hey kids, how's it going? It's Mr. Hession. Just wanted to start off with I hope you're all doing well. I miss you. Um, let's just keep this going. For those that are submitting work, awesome. Thank you. For those that are lagging behind a little bit, please submit your work. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and I'll get back to you. So the first video is going to start off with entering the 1920s. You guys have been working on the graphic organizers for the 1920s. It's really a huge change and a shift, cultural shift, where we say goodbye to like real old school America and we kind of get glimpses of modern day America. And it's a crazy thing that happened 100 years ago. So one of the things that we get to look at first, like how that happened, World War One really shifts the American society, particularly for women and for African Americans. And I included the PowerPoint that you can see if you open it up. So women, they served in factories. They served not necessarily on the front lines, but as nurses, but in the army. And 400,000 African Americans actually wound up serving in the U.S. military. Although they were separate, they did fight. So we also see African Americans during World War One migrate to the North. Why? Jobs. At the end of the day, that's why people start moving places. So now we have rural people moving to urban sites, into urban cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Pittsburgh, great American cities. So boys come home, and they kind of come home to a new America. But when we're going to start talking about that a little later on as far as like consumerisms and the shifting way how Americans spent their money. First thing though, with foreign policy, President Harding pushed for a return to normalcy. America was like no to the world. And they saw the destruction of getting involved in the European war. I bet it was a global war, global conflict. It was inevitable that the United States would get involved. So many Americans wanted to become more isolated. Let's take care of America. In fact, there was an American First political party out there. So many Americans were like, hey, we need to steer clear of world problems. So at first, the American economy is a little slow. When they return back from the front lines, many soldiers had difficulty finding jobs, and many factories would replace minorities and women with men coming back from the front lines. So African Americans faced a lot of discrimination, a lot of segregation, and we also see a lot of evidence of what we would describe as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, with many soldiers returning from home, but mental health care was not exactly recognized back then, and we see some problems with that. Harding really doesn't have much of a great part in American history. In fact, he sees a lot of corruption, and he actually winds up dying while in office. Calvin Coolidge inherits the presidency, and he actually gets the benefit of an economy that was bouncing back. And we'll get more into that later on, why it bounced back. But Calvin Coolidge, he lowers a lot of taxes on the wealthiest and businessmen. He wanted to reduce the national debt. Regulatory industries were kind of like cut in many aspects. Standard of living does improve to an extent. They also see a president that is very laissez-faire, hands off of government, hands off of businesses. Let business be business. So although unemployment was low, we also see a lot of wages not drastically increase, which does create a very large gap between rich and poor. So I'll leave off with that. you can follow along with the PowerPoint and with the readings thus far. The 1920s, again, is a very transformative period in American history. And hope you're staying safe, and I'll talk to you soon.